All right, we're talking about the difference in treatment versus non-treatment and the kinds of things that you ought to be watching out for as you walk through a customer's property. This is where we've talked about leaving money on the table. We don't want you to do that. The tree right behind me that we talked about we applied 5 tree protection actions to it. We did a root collar excavation. We did aeration and decompaction of the critical root zone. Then we applied topsoil, which was a mulch girth. The customer could afford a full application of 3 or 4 inches of mulch, and we did so. That was in a succession of 2 seasons, because we did the root collar first, then we came back and did the aeration decompaction, applied the mulch. As you can see, we pruned it, and then we applied a biostimulant with all kinds of good stuff in it to make it grow. You can see the difference. There's the one that looks so good. There's the one that doesn't look so good. And we're going to start on that one right there as soon as the customer gives us the go-ahead. And so let's take a little walk right down here. We've got a customer that we've worked on now for about 3 years, and I'm going to point out a number of the things that we did for her to satisfy her design intent. This is a perfect example of the kind of thing we want you to be on the watch out for. Look at that, there's a covered and smothered root collar. Isn't it interesting that this particular house, we approached the resident when we came here, and the resident told us, no, we don't own this house, it belongs to an investor. We called the investor. Come right over here, I'll show you another position in his landscape. He owns 18 of these houses, and we are in the process of working out some kind of formal arrangement where we can come in and straighten out these types of problems here. That right there is a covered and smothered root collar. This is a restricted critical root zone. It needs to be extended. It's not too obvious, is it? Here's all the roots out here. Here's more of the roots right here. And if you step back from this tree at all, you'll see that it is starting to leaf and bud out, but it is way slower than everything else. As we walk through the neighborhood, you're going to see other trees just like this. And this is the kind of watch out that you want to give to your customers. Tell them if one tree is going good and another tree is not, and they're the same kind of tree, then there is something wrong. And it's up to you as an arborist to find out. We go to the root collars first, and that is the first treatment. That's where we start, because it unravels the thread to so many other jobs. Now, let's just go across the street to where we've been working for the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm going to show you how we've tacked on jobs for hundreds of dollars over the last 3 seasons. Again, we're referring to layers of work and developing the type of relationship with your client that will make them come back to you year after year after year. They wouldn't go to anybody else. And what we've done for this client is evidence of what I speak. Here are 1, 2, 3 crepe myrtles that were planted above ground in a raised bed scenario, because the electric line that feeds this entire street goes right down through here, and we didn't want to interrupt that, nor did we want to take a chance with it. And so the first job that we did was plant these, and since she has a swimming pool that goes in right here, we cleared selectively the wood line here. You can see some of the brush that's still left in there. We cleared that out, and while the pool was under construction, you'll see some pictures of that as well. And then we came back a second time, because while we were here, we did such a good job with the crepe myrtles. They said, why don't you do some fruit trees? We want some fresh fruit. We want our own fruit. We want it to be organic. We don't want it to be contaminated. And I says, good. The only way you can do that is to grow it yourself. And so what we did is got them a plum tree, and we planted it. This is actually the 2nd year after we planted it. We cleared out the root collar. You can see where the roots are, nice and exposed there. Each year you'll have to do a little bit of this kind of work to keep it clear, because natural forces of gravity and erosion wash this stuff in here against it. And this is fairly well, this second year, you can see it's pretty well rooted now. And we'll come back and cut some of this off of the trunk a little bit later on this spring. But we've got this one planted, and at the same time we planted 3 apple trees. 1, 2, 3. And it's important that you have different kinds of apple trees because they cross-pollinate, and you have to understand that. And we have a friend online, Susan Poisner, Orchard People. I'd recommend that you go find her, because she taught us all we know about this, and we have applied it. So that was the second application of the trust in the relationship that we have here. And the third one was when we came back to mulch, we stirred up the critical root zones of these trees. Let me take you right over here real quick, and I'll show you in the critical root zone of this tree right here, after we stirred it up. This is what we pulled out of a 3-foot critical root zone. We were absolutely amazed. This is Bermuda grass. Some people around here locally call it wiregrass. You've heard it referred to with different names, but that's a lot of stuff right there that is robbing the tree of its nutrients, water, and everything that it needs to grow. And so we expect better performance out of the tree because they called us back, we stirred it up and pulled it out. Now, the third thing that we did while we were here, the third tree protection action, is a biostimulant that we left behind for them. This is non-toxic. There's nothing in it to be afraid of. And we left it behind for them to mix up in here. We've got, probably 15 or 20 gallons, so they actually are using it and applying it 2 or 3 gallons at a time to each of the trees. And they were so pleased with the results and our service and everything, they said, would you mind planting a bush here in front of this air conditioning unit? Which we did, and we dug 1, 2, 3 holes for 2 peach trees and a fig tree. This is exactly what she asked for. She wouldn't have anybody else do it, and this is exactly the kind of relationship that we're looking for. You don't need to leave money on the table. This is 3 visits, hundreds of dollars on the planting. Initially $750, not including the cost of the crepes. This is just labor to get them here, pile it up. Another $450 for the planting of the fruit trees, not including the cost of the fruit trees. And then we came back and put mulch in. We left biostimulant behind that was $175, and all those numbers begin to add up over a period of time, and it builds a super strong cash flow for you, results for the customer, and it shows them that you are a professional in charge of the processes that are most complicated for them in their landscape and their design intent, their designed ecosystem. So now we're going to go around by the pool, and I'll show you exactly what we did to their big white oak. We're here at our customer site, and we're talking about another job, because once the pool was completed, the pool installers, the contractor says, don't let any water come off the hill, because we've already changed the grade. We raised everything up. You can see where the raised grade down through here brought everything up, and if we didn't put a raised berm right in through here, it was going to bring water off the hill and drain it right into the pool and ruin it. Last time we checked, it was $1,000 for cost of fresh water in the pool. We planted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional crepe myrtles in a raised bed planting, because once again, we didn't want to go digging in the ground. There was a septic system involved. There were some utility lines involved. There were, in all of these intense landscapes, you're going to have a real problem digging into the ground without having a a service come out and tell you what's there. And so we make sure that's it. And additionally, you'll see that we're about to go to the signature tree of this property, which is a chinkapin oak. It's first cousin to a white oak. I might refer to it as a white oak every now and then. It looks a lot like it. But this is a tree that has to make it because it is a signature tree in the middle of this entire property right here, and it also captures the vast majority of water coming off the hill down to the pool and never makes it this far because the tree is soaking it up. And let's go to this one. We've been working on this one now for the last 3 years, and I'll show you all of the tree protection actions that we applied to it, hopefully to save it.